How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Samach Beis, Daf 62 of Masechta Sanhedrin. Friends, friends. I'm back in Eretz Yisrael, and Givaldi, we're going to learn Daf 62. Alright, we're going to start on Daf Samach Beis, Amud Aleph, 2, 4, 5 lines into the Daf. Samach Beis Amud Aleph says the Gemara, Tani Reb Zakkai Kame di Reb Yechanan. Reb Zakkai taught before Reb Yechanan Zibech, Vikiter, V'nisech, Vishtachave. A person slaughtered and burnt and libated and bowed down, prostrated himself. Behelim Echad. Wait, 1 second. Okay, sorry. It was like something bothering me. Okay, anyways, sorry. And he did all these avodas, behelim echad, in one, let's call it lapse. In one lapse. Eno chayiv ela achas, he's only chayiv once, so he's not chayiv 4 times, but he did 4 avodas. He did zibeach, v'kiter, v'nisech, v'shtachve. But he's only going to be chayiv once. Omar lei, to which Reb Yechanan responded to Reb Zakkai, poke Tani Levar, go and teach your teaching some other place. This is ridiculous what you're saying. Omer Abba says, the Omer Reb Zakkai, that which Reb Zakkai says, machlokas. 1 second, I gotta move his chair. You can hear something for a second? Okay. Now, Omer Abba again says, Reb Abba, had Omer Reb Zakkai, that which Reb Zakkai says, that he does all 4 things and he's only chayiv once. Machlekes Reb Yesi v'Reb Nosin. It's the famous machlekes between Reb Yossi and Reb Nosin with regard to Shabbos. The Tanya of Or lelav yotzo div Reb Yesi v'Reb Nosin omer lechalek yotzo. Famous machlekes when it comes to Tilchas Shabbos, that of course, losaisu melacha b'chomosh v'seich miyom Shabbos, whatever it is, right? Shabbos losaisu melacha. Of course, we know that there's an isur melacha on Shabbos. You can't do any of the 39 melachas on Shabbos, but one melacha gets special attention. Lo sivaru eish b'chomosh v'seich miyom Shabbos. Do not kindle a fire in all of your dwellings on the day of Sabbath. So meaning there are 39 melachos. Why out of all 39 do we specify havara, kindling? What's special about kindling? So it's machlokes between Reb Yossi and Reb Noson. What's pshat? Reb Yossi says havara lelav yotza. Why is havara singled out? To teach that while in general melacha on Shabbos, chilul Shabbos is a chiyuv karis and korban chatas, etc. Havara is different. Havara is unique. Havara is actually just a lav. If you kindle a fire on Shabbos, you're over on a lav. I guess it means you chayiv malchus, but you're not chayiv karis. Rabbi Nosson disagrees and says no. Havara is like every other milach, and you chayiv karis. And the chiddush of havara, of specifying as havara, is to say that just like if you violate havara, you will be chayiv for havara, also if you violate many milachis in one lapse, you will be chayiv for each one of those milachis. Havara lechalek yatzos. Havara was singled out in order to teach that we will divide up, we will divvy up punishments for each and every milacha that is milachad individually. So that's the famous machlokes with regard to Ilchus Shabbos. Rabbi Yossi says havara lelav yotza, and Reb Noson says havara lechalek yotza. So when Reb Zakkai says before Reb Yochanan that if a person zibech v'kiter v'nisech v'shtach behelim echod, so Reb Zakkai says it's only chayiv once, that's like Reb Yossi, who says, who does not say havara lechalek yotza. Instead, he says havara lelav yotza, and we'll say the same thing over here. That as we're about to see, that, and Rashi explains that basically it says Ishtachava several times in the context of Avodah Zarah, and 3 times. One of the 3 times is to teach. So we're going to say that it's to teach the same thing over here, that Reb Zakkai would assume that Ishtachava lilav yotzos, to teach that Ishtachava is davka a lav, but if you do nisech v'kiter zibech v'kiter v'nisech v'ishtachva behelem echod, you'd only be chayiv once, because he does not hold of ishtachava lechalek yotzos, rather ishtachava lilav yotzo. Okay, so lemando amra havara lilav yotzo. So if you hold that havara lilav yotzo by ilchos Shabbos, so also ishtachava nami lilav yotzo. Let me just make sure I didn't skip anything. I don't think I did. So also you would say here ishtachava lilav yotza rather than lechalek, and therefore if you do, there's no indication that if you do all 4 you'd be chayiv 4 times separately. Rather, if you do all 4 you chayiv once. The mandomer avar lechalek yotza, and if you hold when it comes to Hilchos Shabbos that avara lechalek yotza, well then you'll say the zel bazach do Hishtachava nami lechalek yotza. So also by Hishtachava it's lechalek yotza, and if you do zibech v'kiter v'nisech v'ishtachava behelem echod, so if you say lechalek yotza you'd be chayiv 4 times. But Reb Zakkai holds lilav yotza, and therefore you're only going to be chayiv once. Maskif lo Rav Yosef, but Rav Yosef asks a kasha that Dilma ad kan lo ka'omer Reb Yesi hosom avar lilav yotza dinafka lechiluk milachos me'achas mehena. Ho 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 ho. Rav Yosef, however, questions this mahalich, and he says, wait. That when Reb Yossi says havara lilav yotzos, and therefore when it says lo sevaris lo sevaru eish bechomosh v'seichem biyom haShabbos, that when havara is yotze, Reb Yossi says havara lilav yotza. However, that's because we already know from elsewhere that you're chayiv for each and every melacha that you do on Shabbos. We already know that. Reb Nosson says havara lechalek yotza. So Reb Nosson says, well, you see, havara was yotze. It said just like you're chayiv for havara, you're chayiv for every single melacha. Reb Yossi already knows this from achas mehena, as we're going to see in a second. So Rabbi Yossi already knows chiluk melachos, so he doesn't need havara to teach me chiluk melachos. He already knows that, and therefore he says havara lilav yotzas. But Rabbi Yossi would still hold of chiluk melachos. Rabbi Yossi would still hold that if you do multiple melachos on Shabbos, you'd be chai for each one. And therefore, if we're going to apply that to Avodah Zarah, you would be chai for zibech, v'kiter, v'nisech, v'shtach, you'd be chai for each one. So don't come and tell me that if you say hishtachava lilav yotza, then you'd only be chayiv once for zibeach v'kita v'nisech v'shtachva. No. Rabbi Yossi, who says lilav yotza, is because he already knows l'chalik from elsewhere. Again, Maskef Rabbi Yosef has a kasha dilma ad kan lo ka'am Rabbi Yossi awesome. When Rabbi Yossi says avar lilav yotza, it's because the nafka lechilik melachos me'achas mehena, because he already learns out chilik melachos from a different place, from the pasuk of me'achas mehena. What's me'achas mehena? There's a pasuk by a korban chatos. I'm going to read the pasuk. Dabro b'nei Yisrael, speak to the children of Israel. Lamor saying, Nefesh kisechato, a person sins b'shgage by accident, mikol mitzvahs Hashem, asher lo te'asena, he does an avera, ve'asa me'achas mehena, and he does me'achas mehena, from one of these things. The time that we learn in the Brayso, Rabbi Yossi, Yomi says Rabbi Yossi, ve'asa me'achas mehena, paimim shechayiv achas al kulon. Sometimes you're going to be chayiv once for many transgressions, but paimim shechayiv al kol achas v'achas, there are instances where you're chayiv for each and every melacha that you do. Let's go weiter. It says in Rav Rabbi Yonason, but There's a note that says V'amri Yossi Reb Chanina. Whatever. I think technically that makes sense. My time with Reb Yossi. How come Reb Yossi says, what's pshat with Reb Yossi? Right, when he says, again, the Tanya Rabbi, I'm going to read that again. Rabbi Yossi Omer, ve'osu me'achas me'ena paim shechayv achas al kulan paim shechayv al kol achas ve'achas. Now comes Rabbi Yossi to say, what's pshat? Dichsiv, because the pasuk says, ve'osu me'achas me'hena. So it says, me'achas me'hena. Achas me'achas. Hena me'hena. Achas she'i hena, ve'hena she'i achas. What does that mean? The Gemara explains, Achas, Shimon. So for example, if on Shabbos you write the word Shimon, so you wrote the word Shimon, you're going to be Chayiv for writing on Shabbos. May Achas, from one, Shem, Mishimon. Even if you just write the word Shem, because Shem in and of itself is a name, right? Shem ben Noach. Or for example, the word God or Dan, those are names. Right? So even if you wanted to write Daniel, but you wrote Dan, or if you wanted to write Shimon, and you wrote Shem, you can be chai for that. So Mei Achas. So there's Achas and there's Mei Achas. Heina Ovis. Heina is referring to Ovis Milachis. Meina Toladis. And Meina means that you're chai for Toladis as well. If you do a Tolad on Shabbos, you're chai. Achas Shei Heina. And you can have a scenario where you do basically for Chilul Shabbos, you'll be chayiv for each and every milacha that you do. For example, Zodin Shabbos v'shigos milachos. For example, if you know that it's Shabbos, you just didn't realize that this was a malacha and that was a malacha and the other thing was a malacha. So you can be chayiv for each and every milacha. So you see, chiluk milachis. Heina she'achas, and what's heina she'achas? Shiga Shabbos v'zod malachis. For example, if you know about all the malachas, you know that this is a malach on Shabbos and that's a malach on Shabbos and the other thing's a malach on Shabbos, but you don't, for some reason, you think that today is Sunday. You don't realize that it's Shabbos. So there was one, you knew that was a malacha, this was a malacha, and the other thing was a malacha. You knew that. The only mistake you made was that you thought it was Sunday, not Shabbos, so then you only bring one korban, even though you did multiple malachas, because the one mistake that you made is with regard to not realizing that today is Shabbos. So we see that Rabbi Yossi would hold, with regard to Chilul Shabbos, he would hold Chilik Melachos, that if you know that it's Shabbos, but you didn't realize that this was a Malacha, that was a Malacha, the other thing was a Malacha, Rabbi Yossi would say that you're chayiv on each one because he learns out from the pasuk of Me'achas Me'ena. So once already he learns out from Me'achas Me'ena, Chilik Melachos, so what does he learn out from Havara? Lilab Yotzos. Aval Hacha. But over here, by Avodah Zarah, Deloy Nafkale Chilik Melachis Miduchta Achrise, but by Avodah Zarah, where we don't learn out Chilik Melachis by some other place, Dechuli Amish Tachavay L'Chalik Yotza. But argues Rav Yosef that, so therefore Rav Yosef argues that when Rav Yossi says in the context of Shabbos, Hav'ar L'Lav Yotzos, is because he already knows Chiluk Melachis. However, argues Rav Yosef, by Avodah Zarah, where we don't know elsewhere Chilik Melachos, everybody would agree, therefore, that Ishtachava, not Lilav Yotzos, no, everyone would agree Ishtachava L'Chalik Yotza. Because otherwise we don't know it from anywhere else. Everyone would agree that Ishtachava L'Chalik Yotza, and therefore everyone would agree that Nisech V'Kiter Zibech V'Kiter V'Nisech V'Ishtachava, everyone would agree that you'd be chayiv 4 times. Chilik Melachis. Wait, 1 second. This, okay. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, yeah. Where did I see somewhere? Is that in the Gemara or I don't remember? And Be'etzim, I think that's, I don't remember if the Gemara says this, but I think the point is that Be'etzim, that's why Rabbi Yochanan said, "Get out of here," right? Because there was no, or maybe he wrote that somewhere else. Anyways, but everyone would agree here that the Chalik Yatza and you would be chai for each melach that you do by Avodah Zarah. Chiluk melachas da'avodas kochavim nami tepukle me'achas mehena. But one second, but why don't we also learn, right? Me'achas mehena isn't specifically in the context of Shabbos, it's in the context of a korban chatos. So why don't we say that me'achas mehena can also apply to avodah zarah? And say that achas, what's achas? Zvicha. Slaughtering an animal is achas. Me'achas, siman echor. Me'achas would be if you slaughter even just one siman, right? Either trachea or the esophagus. Heina ovis. Heina would be ovis, for example, right? So the Gemara says zibuach, kitor, nisuch, shtachva. Those would be like the ovis. Meheina is toladis. For example, shavar makal faneh. For example, if you have a avodah zarah, that the way that you service this, that you worship this particular avodah zarah, is you take a stick and you break it. So breaking that stick would be like the equivalent of slaughtering an animal, right? Breaking, right, slitting the neck of the animal and like breaking the stick in half would be like similar. That would be considered a tolad. Achas shehi heina, one that is many essentially. Zodin avodas kochavim. If you know that avodas kochavim is asur, but vishigagas avodos, but you didn't realize that this was asur, that was asur, the other thing was asur because it's an avoda. So there would be chilik milachos over there, right? You'd be chai for each one that you did. Heina shei achas, and many that are one, shigigas avodas kochavim v'zodin avodas. And the Gemara is going to explain in a second what this means. That if you don't realize you didn't realize that avodah zarah, I guess, is asur, but you knew that these avodas are asur, which is weird, because how could you know that avodas are asur but not know about avodah zarah? So let's see. V'ishigas avodas kochav mechidam. What does it mean that you didn't realize that it was avodas kochavim, but you did know that avodas kochavim was like asur? If he assumes that, oh, this is a synagogue, so and he bows down to the synagogue, but then he realizes that it's actually a place where they worship getchkis, but look, at the end of the day, when he was bowing down, he thought he was bowing down to the Ribbon Shalom. So there wouldn't be anything wrong with that. Ella, dichaza andarta v'sagale. If there was andarta, I think it's like like an image of the king or something, and he bows down to what does that say? Shura demus regil nasos bedemus amelech. Roy also mishtach velo lekvod amelech. Fam sheovden also v'zera. Right. So it sounds like it's basically like some kind of image of the king, and out of honor they were like bow down to it. But so libas el dchaz andartus saw this image of the king v'sagale, and he bowed down to it. But ikibla ole meziru. Look, if he bowed down to it as a avodah zarah, well, then meziru, then of course he's going to be chayiv. He's worshipped avodah zarah. Lo kibla ole, but if he didn't accept him as a god, he's just doing it derech kavod lo klumu, then it's nothing. Rather, we're talking about that you worship a getchke, but only out of love of a person or fear of a person. This makes sense according to Abai, who says that you'd be chayiv for that. According to Rava, who says that you're potter from Me'ava Meira, then what's pshat? Right? Why would you be chayiv? Mutter. Okay, rather it's talking about where he says, okay, I guess he doesn't. Where he says that where he's unaware that avodah zarah is actually an issue. He's unaware that avodah zarah is an issue. He thinks avodah zarah is mutter. He doesn't realize that it's an isser in the Torah. He thinks it's mutter. He thinks that all these ways of serving it are mutter. Okay. Well, if that's the case, in Tisha de Ba'amine Ravamir of Nachman, but then we should answer, right? Because we just said Zadin avodah zarah. No, fakir. Shigigas avodah zarah v'zadin melachos, you would be chayav. Again, right? What was it? Zadin, right? What is it? I think it was zadin avodah zarah. No, fakir. It was shigigas avodah zarah, right? One second. Come on. Shigigas avodah zarah v'zadin avodas. And we're saying that in that case, you would be chayiv only once. So if that's the case, they only chayiv only once, then tifshot. Where am I? So tifshot deba mine Rav Nachman Rav asked Rav Nachman helem zevaza biyodo mau. That if that Rav asked Rav Nachman that on Shabbos, Right? So we had talked about Shigigas, Shabbos, and Zodon, Malachos, etc. What if you thought today was Sunday, and also you didn't know that these Malachos are also on Shabbos? Right? What if you had a double mistake? So Rava asked Rav Nachman, what's the halacha there? You chayiv once or you chayiv many times for each? Right? You chayiv for each malacha. So Tifshotz, let us answer based on this. Te'enu chayiv el achas, that you only chayiv once, because here we're talking about where he doesn't know about avodah zarah and he doesn't know about that these things are being over avodah zarah, and we're saying that he's chayiv once. So let us answer therefore that if he didn't know about either one, about Shabbos or the Malachas, you should be chayiv one korban. So lo kasha v'tifshot. So okay, this isn't such a big deal. Okay, say that. Sure, say that he's chayiv once. Okay, fine. Perfecti Gemara mimatzas mukmas lahane kroy b'avodas kocham. But 1 second, can you really say that the psukim in the context of korban chatos me'achas mehena could be applied to avodah zarah, but korban chatos is incompatible with avodah zarah? What does that mean? The luhacha, when it comes to korban chatos, ksiv b'mashiach par. Of course, by korban chatos, we learned the other day. Was it yesterday? That the kohen gadol would bring, if he has to bring korban chatos, he brings a cow. Uvnasi soyer. And if it's the leader of the nation, he brings a goat. Uviyachid, and an individual, just a regular person who needs to bring a chatos, kizba v'sira, either a female sheep or a female goat. So meaning by a korban chatos, there are differences between a par kohen mashiach, a par nasi, a regular. A chatos hanasi. Well, I feel like there's a better word for that. I don't know. As well as an individual, there are specific. Right? Kohen gadol brings a par, a nasi brings a sa'ir, a yachid brings either a kispa or a seir. But v'ilu b'avodos kachavim, when it comes to avodos kachavim, tanan v'shavin shebeseir ki yachid v'sulamidi. That everyone agrees, though, whether you're a kohen gadol, whether you're a nasi, whether you're just an individual person, when it comes to avodah zarah, if you accidentally serve avodah zarah, so you bring a seira. No matter who you are, you bring a seira. So the halachas are different between a korban chatos and a korban that you bring for being over avodah zarah. So therefore, we see that a chatos and avodah zarah, chatos and avodah zarah are different, and you can't apply the halachas of one to the other, and therefore we can't actually know that you would be chayiv many times when it comes to avodah zarah from the fact that you chayiv many times by a korban chatos. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay. Kiyaser of Shmuel by Yehuda Omar. When Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, he said, Hachi Tanakami, that this is what Reb Zakkai taught before Reb Yochanan. Chomer b'Shabbos mishar mitzvahs, chomer b'shar mitzvahs mi b'Shabbos. That there's a chumrah when it comes to Shabbos more so than other mitzvahs, but there's also a chumrah when it comes to other mitzvahs more so than Shabbos. Chomer b'Shabbos. What's the chumrah by Shabbos? Shabbos also shtayim be'elim echad. If you do two melachis with one mistake, chayiv al kol achas v'achas, you're chayiv for each one. Masha enkein b'shar mitzvahs, which is not the case by other mitzvahs. Chomer b'shar mitzvahs, and there's a chomer by other mitzvahs. Sheb'shar mitzvahs shogag below miskavein. If you made a mistake and you had no intention, chayav, you would be chayav masha enkein b'Shabbos, which is not the case by Shabbos. Omar Mar, we said earlier, chomer b'Shabbos. We said that Shabbos is more stringent than other mitzvahs. Shabbos also shtayim v'chulei, that if on Shabbos you do two melachis, you chayav for each one, but not so by other mitzvahs. Heichidami, what's pshat? Ilemedo avad k'tzira v'tchina. If you say, well, on Shabbos you didn't know harvesting and grinding were asur, so you harvested and you grinded on Shabbos. The kavasa gabe shar mitzvahs, and the equivalent by other mitzvahs would be the achal chaylev v'dam, if he accidentally ate chaylev or blood. But then I don't understand. In both of those scenarios, you'd have to bring 2 korban chatases. On Shabbos, you'd have to bring 1 for ktsira and 1 for tchina, as well as by other mitzvahs, you'd have to bring 1 for chaylev and 1 for dam. Okay, so elagabe shar melach mitzvahs, rather by other mitzvahs, the eino chayev ela acha sechidami. So what would be the scenario? By other mitzvahs, so you would only be chayev 1 korban. Dachol chaylev v'chaylev, that if you ate chaylev twice, what does Rashi say? Chaylev shnei zeisim b'shnei yomim lo noda lo b'intayim shechoto eino chayev ela achas k'nefarish time l'kaman. That if he eats chaylev on 2 separate days, but he at no point does he realize that it's asur, so he only has to bring 1 korban chatas. The kavos gabe Shabbos, that analogous to Shabbos would be David ktsir v'ktsira, that he harvested twice by accident. He didn't realize it was asur. But in both cases, he would only be chayiv 1 korban. On Shabbos also, he would only be chayiv 1 korban if he did ktsira twice, the same thing twice. Oh, this is what I was trying to remember earlier. And this, so the Gemara says, and this is why Rabbi Yochanan said to Reb Zakkai, "No, get out of here. What you're saying makes no sense. You're saying that Shabbos is more stringent than Shar Mitzvahs because on Shabbos you chayiv twice and Shar Mitzvahs you chayiv once." I don't understand. On Shabbos, if you would be chayiv twice, by Shar Mitzvahs you'd also be chayiv twice. If on Shabbos you chayiv once, by Shar Mitzvahs in that same scenario, you'd be chayiv once as well. So Rabbi Zakkai says, "No." So Rabbi Yochanan says to Reb Zakkai, "No, get out of here." But my kusha, but what's the problem? Dilma la'olam emelach, really I'll say to you, the avar ktsira v'tchina, that it's talking about ktsira and tchina, and on Shabbos you chayiv twice, masha ein kein b'shar mitzvahs, which is not the case by other mitzvahs, ason la'avadus k'chavim k'tur b'ami, is by avodah zara, like Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Ami says, Rabbi Ami zibeach v'kitar v'nisech be'elam echod and chayiv ela achas, that if he was did these 4 avodas by avodah zara, he's only chayiv once. Lo mesuk malei. Where am I? The Amar b'zem kidim v'zich b'elam echad ein chayiv ela achas. Wait, where am I? Fine. Lo mesuk malei b'avodas kocham d'ktani sevacham. Wait, what? Okay. All right. That's not avodas kocham. Kid. Where am I? My question: Dilma la'olam ema la'achda v'ktsira v'ashigim b'shar mitzvahs as on the v'zkuchavim ke de Reb Ami dam Reb Ami is be'avrid v'nisich be'lamechol enu chayiv ela achas. Is that the answer? Okay, I think that might be an answer. Okay, fine. Okay, so we say, right, so what's the problem? We could say that by Shabbos, you'd be chayiv, right? So if you do ktsir and tchina, you'd be chayiv for each one on Shabbos. However, Reb Ami says that when it comes to avodah zara, you'd only be chayiv once. If it's zibech, v'kita, v'nisech, v'shtach, v'behelam echad, you'd only be chayiv once. And I guess Rashi must say this. I don't think it was learned out over here in the Psukim, but I think Rashi maybe points out that it's from the pasuk of what's it called? From Losa of Dame, right? Don't worship them. That's one milacha. Where am I getting this information from? I don't even remember. But you'd only be chayiv. Anyways, so Rami says you'd only be chayiv once. Okay. So, and then the Gemara says, "But lo mesuk melei ba'avodas kocham dekatani." Why do I feel like I'm reading this wrong? Wait, one second. I need to confirm. Something's weird here. Yeah, okay, fine. Right, so Rabbi Yochanan had said to Reb Zakkai, "No, get out of here. It makes no sense. There's no scenario where you'd be chayiv twice on Shabbos and once by other mitzvahs." To which we say, well, you could say that maybe Reb Zakkai is talking about avodah zara, like Reb Ami says you don't be chayiv once. To which the Gemara says, "Lo misuk malei ba'avodas kochavim." That but we can't say that the Brisa is talking about avodas kochavim. The Katani Sefer, because it says in the Sefer chomer b'shar mitzvahs, that there's a chomer by other mitzvahs, sheb'shar mitzvahs, Shogag below miskavein chayiv. If made a mistake and had no intention, chayiv. Shogeg below miskavein b'avodas kochav meichidam. And if we're saying that the Brisa is talking about avodah zara, that other mitzvahs is a reference to avodah zara, so what would that scenario be? Either kasav beis hakneses, who, if he thinks it's a synagogue, v'shtach v'lo nibad down to it, areli b'la shamayim, well, his heart was to heaven. He didn't do anything wrong. He saw an image of the king, and he bowed down to it. If he accepted it as a god, well, then he's being over the avodah zarah intentionally. And if he didn't accept this image of the king as a god, as avodah zarah, well, then he didn't do anything. So okay, so rather must be talking about if he did it out of love for a person or out of fear of a person. That makes sense. He says that you'd be chayiv for that. But according to Rav, the Amar Potter says Potter ma'ikal lemeimar. So then what's pshat? Ela ba'omer mutter. Well, it's where he says that there's no such thing as avodah zarah. Masha'en ken b'Shabbos the Potter legamrei, which is not the case on Shabbos, where you would be Potter. Okay, but at kan lo ba'amine Ravamir of Nachman helim zevazeh el l'chiyuvei chada, el l'chiyuvei tarta. But 1 second. When Rava asked Rav Nachman with regard to Shabbos, that if he's not sure, if he doesn't realize that it's Shabbos and he doesn't realize that these malachos are osir on Shabbos, so Rava says to Rav Nachman, are you going to be chayiv, or are you going to be chayiv once, or are you going to be chayiv twice, right, multiple times? Potter. But legamer leka lamando omar, but nobody would say that on Shabbos you would be completely potter, and here we're saying that on Shabbos you would be entirely Potter. So my koshedim la'olam emelach, really I'll say to you Reisha b'avodas kochavim v'seifa b'shar mitzvahs. So we say, wait, 1 second. So maybe I'll say, look, the Reisha is talking about avodas kochavim, right? And that if you do on Shabbos, Ktsira and Tchina, you'd be chayiv twice, but by avodas kochavim, if you do Zibech, V'kita, V'nisech, V'shtach, you'll be chayiv once, like Rubami. And then when it comes, so that's talking about avodah zarah, when we're talking about shar mitzvahs. But in the Seifa, when we say that by shar mitzvahs, you'd be chayiv, but on Shabbos you'd be potter, shar mitzvahs there is not talking about avodah zarah. Now, Reisha b'avodas kochavim, the Reisha is talking about avodah zarah, the Seifa, b'shar mitzvahs. The Seifa though is talking about other mitzvahs, v'shagag below miskaven, and when we say that he made a mistake and had no intention to kasaver roku v'lo. For example, if he sees some liquefied chaylev and he thinks it's just spit, so he eats it, so then he's going to be chayiv. Masha'enkin b'Shabbos, which is not the case b'Shabbos, the potter sheniskaven like be'as atolish v'chodach hasam v'chuber, that on Shabbos, for example, if you pick up something that is detached from the ground, and by accident you then detached something from the ground, potter, you can be potter, because your intention was to pick up something that was detached from the ground. Like Rav Nachman, that if somebody unintentionally, right, makes a mistake when it comes to chaylev or arayis, he's chayiv, because at the end of the day he got benefit. So if he thought that was spit, but it ended up being chaylev, he's going to be chayiv, because ultimately he got benefit from the chaylev. Hamasasik b'Shabbos potter. But if on Shabbos you had absolutely no intention of doing a malacha, for example, you were just picking up something off the ground, you ended up detaching something from the ground, you are potter for that. Melechas machshavas asur Torah, because you have to have intention in order for it to be asur. Okay, so we could say therefore that brisa, the Reisha is talking about avodah zarah, the Sefer is talking about shar mitzvahs. So why did Rabbi Yochanan throw out Reb Zakkai? Rabbi Yochanan Taimei, Rabbi Yochanan is according to his reasoning to lo mukim asnisa Reisha b'chatayim v'sefer b'chatayim. Rabbi Yochanan does not like to establish a brisa to say that the Reisha is talking about one thing and the Sefer is talking about something else. The Rabbi Yochanan says man demetargim lichovis aliba dechatano movil namani basir and masusa. That Rabbi Yochanan said in Perek HaMafkid in Bava Metzia that it was a sugya with putting a barrel in somebody else in a shomer's property. There's machlokes in Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Kiva over there, and Rabbi Yochanan says, look, anybody who can establish this brisa without having to say that one part is Rabbi Yochanan and the other part is Rabbi Shmuel, if you can get it to be consistent, I will take your clothes after you to the bathhouse. I will be indebted to you. Meaning Rabbi Yochanan really did not feel comfortable taking a price and saying that the Reish is talking about one thing and the Sefer is talking about something else. Therefore, if the only way to understand the price that Reb Zaka was teaching is to say that the Reish is talking about Zara and the Sefer is talking about Shar Mitzvahs, Rabbi Yochanan was not excited about that, and he says, "No, teach that price somewhere else. Peace out."